Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division for the Typhoon Tournament and the Porthello Cove. This tournament has increased wins, which is going to be crazy and also very difficult. Before we take a closer look, make sure that you do hit the thumbs up button. Also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification. For those of you that do want to get an advantage, and especially when it becomes tougher, having our ultimate tournament guides for Pro, Expert and or Master is going to give you a massive advantage. Sign up by scanning the QR code here on the screen or go directly to patreon.com/golfclashtommy through the link that is in the description down below. Follow the info box on the right hand side for the club distance adjustment, elevation adjustment, also what ball and club type I suggest you to play with. Have in mind that those are all suggestions and you don't have to follow it if you don't want to, but there is always a plan behind it. So let's go to hole number 1. Hole number 1, and here we're going to play on the left side every single time. Sure, if you do have a tailwind, you could technically send it, but there is so much lottery in that if you're going to get yourself to green. So here we value consistency, which is to lay up on the left and then go for a rough bump to pin. Now when we do have a headwind, we're going to have to push hard with overpower. Sure, if you can play with a ball with more power and a ball with more wind resistance, that's obviously going to be extremely helpful. Maximum distance plus 10 is what we are adjusting. We are using the club that gives us the most power. Second shot, we are going to have a sniper, and the sniper here is going to be very valuable in two ways. One, that is that we do have a good accuracy. If hitting a great ball, we don't really risk missing the rough if we're not doing something completely stupid. If we also then have the sniper, we also have a good ball guideline. I like to favor the more right side of the rough. It's because I do believe that's a little bit more consistency from there. And we're going to play a negative elevation, so minus 10%, and we're going to play true club distance, because this one is actually played uphill, and that's something that is very easy to forget. Hits the rough right, like dead center on the pin for an eagle on hole 1 to start with, a tough par 4 of the Porthello Cove. Hole number 2 has always been very difficult par 3 in tour play, in my opinion. But in tournament play, this is actually a fairly decent chance for a hole in 1. It's way easier, in my opinion, than hole number 6, for an example. And this is because we can go for the rough bump. It may look very glitchy here, and it's often because you find the wrong spot. You can see that I'm somewhat looking around for different spots here in the rough, and decide to play with a sniper for the best accuracy and for the best ball guideline of the wood clubs that I'm having. Max plus 10, and we need to have in mind here that when we do play with a tailwind, the ball will fly a little bit longer than where we aim, so we can't aim just close to the rough line. Then we're going to have to compensate for with underpower, and that's not really something we do want to do. Perfect ball it is. I'm gonna bounce into the rough, and you can see here now that we're rolling down towards the pin, coming in a little bit hot, obviously, but from a tournament perspective, it doesn't really matter. We do want to give the ball a chance to drop, not stay short in line. So a rough bump here, in my opinion, a decent chance for an hole in 1. Hole number 3, and here we're going to play on the right hand side. Here you can see that I'm playing with a katana. Why do I do that? That's actually a good question, because here with having a headwind, it's definitely recommended to play with a ball that has more wind resistance, such as a kingmaker. So we're gonna change the suggestion to a kingmaker here in the box, because why play with more overpower than what we actually have to? Obviously, if you still want to keep the katana, then you can do that. I don't know why I said a navigator. It's a katana, obviously. We do want 3 left spin, and we do want to play with a club that do have a lot of curl. And the curl will obviously help pushing the ball up here on the fairway. And from here, we're going to have a shot from distance with our sniper. The sniper here is going to be played somewhere between minimum and medium distance of our club. If we have a higher power ball, and especially if having some sort of a tailwind, it could be that we're going to have to play a long iron instead. And then that doesn't really matter, because a long iron is definitely a little bit, definitely a better chance for a drop. 5% elevation, true club distance, hitting a great left, and obviously a great left is not super, but look at this! So lucky getting a drop with a great left. Obviously adjust properly and maybe take yourself a couple of extra seconds than what I'm doing here in the video, then you don't have to rely on that much luck at least to get an albatross on a tough par 5, which all of the par 5s are of the Porthello Cove. Hole number 4 is one of the few holes of Porthello Cove that you could say, alright, if we are getting a good wind here, this is going to be a hole where we need to be laser focused and give ourselves a good chance for a drop. Use a decent amount of topspin and also right spin. You can see here now that I'm actually trying to do a little controlled way of playing, using 3 topspin and 1 right spin. Adjust is going to be max plus 10 P2, and we're going to, you can see here now, I'm stretching out and I'm adjusting from stretched out position. Center the ball and hit perfect with a slight amount of overpower. And what's going to happen now is that the ball will bounce on the fairway over the rough in a controlled way and land on this fairway. So we're not pushing for the final fairway, risking getting stuck into the rough or having a glitch roll down into the water. Because what we're going to do here now is that we're going to go for a rough bump. And this rough bump is actually pretty neat. And the reason why I think so, it's because you don't have to adjust many rings. And also the difficult part with this green is that we do have that uphill slope that is just before the green starts. Bouncing on that one gives a very difficult time to control. And if we're not having, what can I say, a lot of backspin on our long iron or our short iron, it's going to be very difficult to even give yourself a chance for that. Minus 20% elevation because we're adjusting to a lower point, and then compensating with a slight amount of overpower just because we don't want to land too far back. So getting ourselves an eagle here is definitely a big bonus, but I would say this is one of the easier par 4s, sorry, one of the easier holes that when it comes to Porthello Cove. Hole number 5, another long and pretty boring par 5, I must say. There is a lot of fairway paths here, and the ones that you should focus on is mainly the one that is to the right, because what that makes is that you have an open shot with your wood club towards the pin on the second shot. However though, if you do have a direct headwind here and cannot play with a ball that has more power than power 3, then it's going to be difficult to reach over on the right hand side in a consistent way without endangering the water. Then you might have to play straight forward and just play to get an eagle. Because there's nothing wrong on tough par 5 such as the Porthello Cove to actually play for an eagle and just remove the thought of an albatross. But if we do have a tailwind, at least we should give it a shot, in my opinion. So using the right hand side here, trying to find a more consistent spot on the fairway with our wood club. This to be able to attack the pin here from distance. 2 left spin and a little bit of backspin to leave the ball guideline short. Again, if we do have a headwind, obviously we wouldn't leave the ball guideline short, because then we would always go short. It's always to adapt to what type of wind direction you're having. 10% elevation and then true club distance, bounces on to the fairway, rolls up, getting very close to a drop here on hole number 5. This one, as hole 3, as hole 9, tough par 5s to get a drop. For hole number 6, we're gonna play a rough bump here, and the reason I want us to play a rough bump is due to the fact that that is, in my opinion, the way to get a drop. I mean, you can see me also playing this one live, and the reason I'm playing this one live is due to the fact that the game is not saving the replays. So now you can see here now with pulling up this hill, it's obviously not easy, and we're going to have to compensate by using underpower here in the end. And I'm gonna do just before circle break. So you can see I'm moving up the circle break and moving back, and here I'm going to take my shot. A perfect ball here will hit the rough and then it will attack the pin. I mean, if you are not hitting the rough, then you will see, like if you're not hitting the rough, what you will see then is that you will be obviously going out of bounds. But to get yourself on hole-in-one and a chance for a hole-in-one here from on hole number 6, you're gonna have to go for a rough bomb. Playing the quarterback max plus 50 power 3 ball settings. You could see that I set my target in the rough, then I added spins to be short of pin because it is a tailwind and I don't want the ball to roll over the back. Adjusted circle just before circle break on the power, and that's a hole-in-one. Hole number 8, which in Eurotrip 9 Cup, which also is Porthello Cove, hole number 7, using 3 left spin, and we are going to go with 5.8 topspin here. What I'm looking for is to have my second bounce to be just into the rock, like the big rock patch there. Adjustment is max plus a 10, and here I'm using a couple of clicks of overpower just to compensate for the headwind. The goal here is to get the ball to be around the green, and that's why using a club such as the Apocalypse that do have a lot of curl, that could be also a quarterback, could be the rock, and it can also be different types of power hooks to get yourself up there towards the green. No matter what way you're playing, this hole is needed to be an eagle. If you do have a headwind, you can still reach over, but you need more topspin, and you also need to use a special ball to get the distance enough. So if you can't do that, you're gonna have to lay up if so. Now, obviously, we're going to take a look at the wedge. We're not going to take a look at the drive again. And the wedge is super simple, really. You can use all the top spin if you like and get yourself an even shorter one. But I'm just demonstrating no spin, playing 20% elevation and whatever power ball you are using, which is power 3 in this instance. Ball guideline into the hole. Adjust, and you can see here now, even if I'm adjusting 5 rings, which is not 5 rings, but even if I would be adjusting 5 rings or 10 rings, the ball guideline is most likely not even gonna leave the hole, which makes this wedge being super simple. So an eagle here in hole number 8, which also is Porthello Cove hole number 7, is gonna have to be a must. On hole number 8, we're going to play an NMT. What that means is that we're not touching the target until it's time to adjust the rings. Why is that helpful? It's because then we're removing one part of the total adjustment that could become an issue for us, as it's always going to be difficult to be replicating the same landing spot. At least it's more difficult when you have to find a landing spot than when you don't have to in this instance. Medium distance plus 20, leaving the ball guideline way short to compensate for the extended ball guideline. And as you can see on the nature of the green, there is not much room for error here. And what I mean with that is that the error of coming a little bit more left or a little bit more right will be a massive amount of danger. You can see here now, even though I'm very close to the pin with my ball, it still falls down. If you don't have speed control, you will roll into the rough or the bunker. And that's something you're going to have to practice, or just follow someone that do know what they are doing, especially if you don't know yourself. Because once again, coming in too hot, you are in the rough or in the sand, and then that's going to be a tough one to save. But if you at least have speed control, it doesn't really matter if you get a hole-in-one or just barely roll down the green. It's still going to be a wedge from the fairway or from the fringe. Hole-in-one here is absolutely possible, but we don't really have much margin to play on. So hole 8 is definitely a very difficult par 3. Hole number 9, a couple of things here, and I think the most important part here is if you can play with a ball with more power, please do. Especially if you do have headwind. Having to play with a power 3 ball, as I'm forcing myself to do in this video, is just pain. And it's going to put so much pressure on the drive that it's going to be very easy to roll too long and roll into the rough. and if you do that, then it's game over. You cannot reach for the green in 2 because of all the water that we're going to have to cross, and we can't do that with our short iron. Sorry, rough iron. Adjust max plus 10, and here I'm using whatever overpower I adjust into. Again, if playing with a higher power ball, that's why I'm suggesting the luminary in the info box. You're going to have to what can I say, going with the luminary there is going to give you a scenario where you're going to have to not go with overpower, and then the second shot, as you will notice now, is going to be much easier. Now, 2 things. Playing with a sniper in headwind is stupid. Yeah, we can just agree on that, because it doesn't have the power. Use the Cataclysm or the Big Dog instead. Give yourself the power and give yourself a much easier time to play this shot. If you, however, have a headwind, you cannot really attack the pin directly if you're not playing with a good ball and with a good club. Then you're going to have to aim to the left, and you're going to have to go with full curl and some backspin to try to just land the ball close to green. You see we bounce on the fairway, and the backspin allows us to stop before the rough, and then we do have a simple wedge from distance. Once again though, pick the correct ball, pick the correct club, make the life a little bit easier for you here on hole number 9. No elevation on the second shot, 10% elevation on the drive. Thank you so much everybody for watching this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division with various win for the Porthelakov and the Typhoon Tournament. Make sure that you get the best guides on the market for Pro, Expert and Master, and bundle it together with 9-hole cups and or tour guide. Scan the QR code here on the screen or go directly to patreon.com/golfclashtommy. You do have the link in the description down below. Thank you once again for watching, and good luck in your Golf Clash game.